These days, everybody's talking about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. What does Jewish tradition and Jewish philosophy say about DEI? Well, we're very big on diversity. It turns out that, according to Jewish law, two brothers are not allowed to testify together in court on the same case. Having grown up in the same home, the same environment, there's reasonable concern that they share the same unconscious biases. And therefore, that might skew their testimony together, no matter how credible they might be individually. Similarly, the two great academies of the House of Hillel and the House of Shammai, they fought viciously and ferociously, but it never got personal. They always respected one another. They were always cordial and respectful towards one another. And the whole benefit of that interaction was that different perspectives should be represented in order to get closer to the truth. Inclusion, we're also very big on. In the Sanhedrin, the high court of sages, whenever they had to rule on a point of law, it was the junior most member of the court who spoke first. Because if a senior spoke, well, the junior member might be intimidated into suppressing his own opinion. But by allowing the most junior to go first and then working up the ladder so that the president of the court was the last one to speak, that ensured that fresh, perhaps unconventional points of view would be aired and considered. As for the E element, the equity, that's a little more complicated. The sages teach something very interesting. They say, everything is in the hands of heaven except for hot and cold. At first, it sounds a little bit, more than a little bit, counterintuitive. It doesn't mean that we're in control of the environment. It means that all we can control is our response to the environment. We can't control outcomes. We can't control the reality of the world that we live in. We can do our part to change that reality, to improve that reality. But we can't convince ourselves, we can't fool ourselves into thinking that outcomes and results are going to be in our hands. The history of the business world, it's filled with stories of people who did everything wrong and succeeded, and people who did everything right and failed. All we can do is our best. When there's sincere intent and effort, when there's planning, when there's cooperation and collaboration, when there is the integration of different perspectives, honestly striving to try to see the reality, the totality of the situation as objectively and authentically as possible, that's the best we can do. Sometimes it pays off in the short term. It usually pays off in the long term. But at the same time, we have to remember that this world is a place of imperfection. We're never going to solve all the problems. We're never going to fix everything. All we can do is the best we can do. And when we do that together, with sincerity, with civility, with integrity, with good intent, and conscious, determined effort, chances are we will see increasingly a measure of success that will bring us closer and closer to the ideal that we all hope to achieve.